Video games like Postal.
Going Postal.
Going Postal. New video game. It's called Postal.
There are a lot of people that really wish we would go away, but it's never going to happen.
Their whole premise is so over the top. It's so ridiculous.
There was a video game called Postal. We just ran around shooting people.
Oh, this is gonna piss off your viewers, isn't it? Oh, well.
Going Postal, The Legacy Foretold. A new documentary about the history of running with scissors. Streaming this spring. Pre-order now. Go to goingpostaldoc.com. That's goingpostaldoc.com. Tell them In the Keep sent you. If, for instance, I determine the weight of each stone in a bed of pebbles and get an average weight of 145 grams, this tells me very little about the real nature of the pebbles. Anyone who thought, on the basis of these findings, that he could pick up a pebble of 145 grams at the first try would be in for a serious disappointment. Indeed, it might well happen that however long he searched, he would not find a single pebble weighing exactly 145 grams. The statistical method shows the fact in light of the ideal average, but does not give us a picture of their empirical reality. While reflecting on undisputable aspect of reality, it can falsify the actual truth in a most misleading way. This is particularly true of theories which are based on statistics. The distinctive thing about real facts, however, is their individuality. Not to put too fine a point on it, one could say the real picture consists of nothing but exceptions to the rule, and that, in consequence, absolute reality has predominantly the character of irregularity. Carl Jung, in The Undiscovered Self.
Life started in a hospital, as it does for most.
That's tragic. You should really think about it. Like, the first thing you do in your life is you're in the hospital. It's like, fuck, what did you got injured? Is birth an injury?
I was 9 pounds 3, so I think that's debatable.
I think you injured your mom.
but yeah, I started as a young lad, and then played some PS1 games, kind of growing up, and never thought I'd ever be any sort of creative or making anything, and then suddenly found an engine that I could work in, and now I make games. That's the abridged version.
So it would be great if that was not the abridged version. Like, that's the synopsis of my life is video game.
Yeah, and a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme in between.
Yeah, who's your father, right? Like, you guys, was it strained with him traveling so much for film shoots, or?
I feel like as much as I like Van Damme, he would more fit creepy uncle vibes.
Having a Belgian uncle would suck.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I guess so.
Okay, so anyway, growing up in the UK and everything, you got you had, like, maybe Mega Drive, or did you skip straight to the PlayStation, or like, what was kind of the?
My parents were a bit weird with it. Like, they were very much like, oh, you shouldn't be playing video games, and even like when I was like using my imagination indoors, it was more like you should go outside. So I didn't.
That too.
Yeah. I didn't have a console growing up for a long time. When I stayed at like, we had like a childminder, I'd stay at hers, and her grandson had Quake and Doom up on the PC upstairs. So I'd try like the first level of that and absolutely be terrible at it as like a 5 or 6 year old, and then get found out and brought downstairs. But
a childminder is what we would call a babysitter, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's just one of them things. Even having been to the UK, I don't think anyone's ever said those words to me. Childminder.
I don't think it's something that would just come up in casual conversation. Usually.
I know, right? It's just one of those, like, okay. It's another one on the list of, like, tires with a Y.
But yeah, like, I didn't have a console till I was probably 10 or 11, which is when a friend of the family just gave us a PS1 and a bunch of football games, soccer to you guys.
Right.
And from there, I just kind of became completely absorbed in them, and slowly started finding where my taste sort of lied there, which surprisingly wasn't in soccer games. And started playing first-person shooters. Time Splitters was coming around pretty soon after that, which was sort of my big FPS introduction. And then, played a few other things here and there. Did some writing about video games as well. And then we sort of come towards me entering the industry. Started working at PEGI, the age rating place in Europe for video games. And from there managed to use that as like a launch pad into working at a game publisher. And whilst at the game publisher, I was like, I like publishing these people's games, but you know what I'd like more would be publishing my games. And then did that and made them.
I
Here we
gotta
are.
ask, like, okay, so if you worked at PEGI, were you like deciding what rating a game should get?
Yeah. Well, you
That's
have like
interesting.
a questionnaire you've got to like abide by, which has got
Right.
like a bunch of rules, text, and stuff.
How much like gray area is there really, or is it pretty scientific?
I mean, there's a little bit of grey area. There's stuff like a bit of blood mist is allowed, but like a blood splat might be a bit more veering towards 16, as opposed to 12 or teen, what you've got out there.
Uh,
It's a weird little career, and something that has pretty much zero transferable skills, which was quite interesting to come out of.
feel like it would have certain transferable skills. Like you could probably like off the top of your head just kind of tell somebody what their rating is going to be on a game. Like they don't have
Yeah.
to worry. Like you're like, oh well, that's gotta go. You can't have that. It's going to be M for mature, or whatever Peggy would call those things. It's one of the more annoying things. I would hate to be like on the whatever the German version of that is. Like,
Oh yeah, and the
that'd be a
Australian
nightmare.
one as well.
Yeah, why are they so fucking uptight? Why Australia of all places, like so uptight about these things? Like, oh, you're gonna corrupt our youth or whatever. I'm like, fucking send them outside. It's way scarier than anything I'm gonna put in this video game.
Yeah, in Australia, it's probably more common for parents to want their kids to stay inside and not be productive.
Yeah, it's just a weird place to be like prudish. But I mean, much respect and all that, Australia. You know, that's fine. Did,
Yeah, I mean,
did
I've been watching Married at First Sight Australia this year.
you seem
I
like
I'm
the
not
kind of
even I'm
person
not even joking, I actually
who
I
watches
love it.
these. It's like wrestling, is it? My wife loves Love Is Blind, like,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
all the weird things that come from that, or the ultimatum, like the one where like like my partner doesn't want to marry me, so we're gonna go on this dating show where we both get to date other people, and I wonder if they'll decide to marry me, and the answer
Yeah.
is no. And then the South Africa version is like way better. 'Cause it's just like, in the American version, it's like, "Oh, he kissed another girl or some shit," and in the South African version, it's like they're just full on fucking people. I'm like, I do not see what is the problem here.
There's something amazing about reality TV, like,
Mm.
and usually it's not from America and the UK where you get the good stuff. Like,
Right,
you guys
right.
had some interesting things, Geordie Shore.
But I think the
Like,
greatest American reality show ever was Robin Big.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
It was, Rob Dyrdek, the pro skateboarder, and his bodyguard. It was really popular. I don't know why, but it was really popular on MTV, like, 20 years ago.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it was before he did, like, Ridiculousness and Fantasy Factory and all that. This was, like, his first reality show. And it wasn't even about skateboarding. It was just them doing fucking goofy bro shit most of the time. But, Rob Dyrdek is just one of those psychopaths that, like, he had ambition. He was like a fucking nobody skateboarder kinda guy, and he was like, "I wanna be a fucking millionaire." So he would just do crazy stuff, like, I'm gonna set as many world records in a month as I can, and then I'm gonna set the world record for most world records. And then
Yeah,
they would
that
just
sounds
film him
awesome.
doing that, it was fucking fun. Like, actually I know it's all bullshit, don't get me wrong, but, like, it
Yeah.
was fun to watch as a redneck kid who was basically doing all the same stuff, but with less money. Like, "Oh, I wanna do that." Like, yeah.
But unsanctioned.
Or Jackass. Jackass was also like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, oh god, we're gonna have a reality this is probably the first time this has ever happened on the show. Reality
It's gonna
TV.
be the longest episode ever. It's just gonna be us sitting here for 10 hours watching entire seasons of The Bachelor.
Yeah, I just I don't do the dating stuff. There's something about it that rubs me the wrong way.
I think
Um,
for me, it is kind of similar to like wrestling. Like, you've got your
yeah.
heels, you've got your baby faces, and you've got your characters who you just look at and you're like, why are they acting like that? That's a Vince McMahon creation. Well, that's a Russo creation.
That's how I feel about it. Like, when I'm watching it, I just wish that we could like, for me, it would be easier if I knew for sure this guy's bullshitting me. Otherwise, I actually hate them, and I find that difficult to live with. Like, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I hate you for what you're doing, and I hate this fucking stupid bitch that you're dating for letting you get away with it, and then not putting two and two together that you're a psychopath.
For someone who doesn't do the whole dating reality show thing, you have a lot of opinions about the whole dating reality show thing.
Because my wife
I'm onto you.
she loves him so much, man. And she'll always ask me questions like, if we were on Love Is Blind, do you think that we would still have ended up together? And I say things like, I would not be on that show. And if I were, you can guarantee I'm there for the paycheck and not because I think that there's some actual love that's going to happen between me and someone else on the show. She's like, but if you say you would, the outcome would be better for you. And I'm like, oh yeah, totally.
I mean, that's an easy test. That's an easy test to mess up.
Well, I would never go on such a show because I've already found the love of my life. And she's like, well, but we didn't know each other yet. I'm like, well, as someone who has found the love of his life, I can't even put myself into the mindset of such a situation, right? It's like well, those James Bond movies or something where you're like trying to dodge laser beams in a
I think that's
security
the perfect comparison to marriage.
Yeah, man. Well, so The Bachelor, what is it? Why that? Why do you like that?
I've got no idea. I've never seen an episode of The Bachelor. It's on my list. I have
It's
I have
on.
a big list of ones I want to start watching. Most of the stuff that I want to see though, it was such. I'm gonna sound really British here. It was such drivel that that you can't find it anywhere anymore. Like a lot of the early MTV dating shows, like there's like 2 episodes on YouTube and that's it. There's one that was like Date My Mom,
Aren't they
which
on
is
Max or something? Like, isn't all of MTV's library on one of the streaming sites now? Is it
I'm gonna
Max
bring
or
up
Paramount?
I'm gonna bring up a tab for after we finish, and I'm gonna find out the answer to that question.
Now I'm helping you.
Oh, god damn! I can't use Max in the UK. What is this?
Oh, wow. Okay. Maybe the answer is that you need to you should move to South Carolina and buy this house that they're selling right behind my house. And then we could have joined fences. And when my wife wants to watch reality show, she'll have someone to do that with while I run a video game empire out of my garage.
I think the real answer to this is I just need better taste in TV shows.
I love pro wrestling. I watch Monday Night Raw every Monday. Like for there's a 3-hour block in my schedule. It's like, do not bother me for work things or whatever now because I'm
I
watching this.
I haven't really bothered with a lot of the new stuff. Like I went through when WWE Network was still around, and I watched the entirety of Raw and all the pay-per-views from 97 to 98, so the whole year through.
Yeah.
And then
Kane
I
and
was
The
just like,
Undertaker and Stone Cold.
yeah,
That's
and well, Senor Sincere, whatever his name is, everyone's favorite wrestler. And then you got the shit like the Gang Wars era with with loads of factions that nobody cared about, and the Nation of Domination DX.
Yes.
Like for me, that's just it carries so much more. I think people were a lot more charismatic back then, or the writing was better, or I'm just stuck in a nostalgia hole. Or,
I think the lines were a lot more blurred between reality and what, and fakehood. Kayfabe
yeah,
is the proper term, but yeah, like the Bret Hart thing kind of changed the whole dynamic of the sport. But
yeah.
before
But
that,
I
it was like,
tell me,
it was like, is this real? Like, are they for real? Really? And when we were 2 or 3 years old, it was totally real. It was
yeah,
like Kane really did set that guy on fire. Like that happened, and he got away with it. The cops didn't even do anything about it. That's what was so exciting about it to me. Is like, there's no consequences. Like you just do whatever you want. When you're grown up and you're a wrestler, you could do anything you want.
and I think what really irks me about like when I've tried modern wrestling is that there is no one that as soon as their theme tune hits, you get the goosebumps like you get with The Undertaker. There is no one that I think has the charisma of like Austin or Angle or early The Rock. I don't know what happened with The Rock, but I'm certain he was replaced by some weird different person at some point. Because like up to like 2010, he was The Rock, and now he's
Once he started in the movie career, he became Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and then he became Dwayne Johnson. But now he's the final boss, The Rock. Like he owns the entire company, and he's trying to get Cody Rhodes to sell him his soul. It's amazing. I love it.
It's strange, man. Like even when The Rock was in his earlier films, like Scorpion King, Walking Tall, up to like Faster with Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah,
There was something about his movies which are really kind of captivating.
I
But
love
feel
Walking
like,
Tall.
yeah,
Walking
Walking
Tall's
Tall's
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
But there's something about modern rock that feels super inauthentic and a bit wormy. Like
He
yeah.
remember when he became the corporate champion? Like he sold his soul to go, be Vince McMahon's guy. He's currently assuming that role. Like he's become the devil, trying to take people, and like, all right, well, I need you to do what I want you to do, kind of shit. And I think it's nice. So you say like there's people like there's no one whose music hits, and I just get the goosebumps. But like, dude, CM Punk is my fucking hero. Like from when I was a teenager, CM Punk was. I dressed like him. I walked like him. I tried to talk like him. I wanted to be him. I dyed my hair the same color as him. Whatever I had to do to be CM Punk. I showed up to wrestling school, and the guy was like, "You're a giant CM Punk mark, aren't you? We have one of you over there. You will be a tag team." Like,
The punks.
yeah, the chick magnets or whatever. But no, I love that shit. I don't know why. But it's the same thing though. The comparison to reality TV is totally real. Like
Yeah.
it's the same shit. It's just drama, and in this case, it's sweaty men drama instead of the opposite, estrogen fueled cat fighting hatred.
I gotta love my homoeroticism. I mean,
There's
goes
a
all
lot
the
of
way
that
back.
too.
Arnie, Sly had a ton of that as well.
Oh, they're like Gorgeous George back in like the 60s was sort of like he was like the influence for, like Muhammad Ali, like the whole idea of a masculine man dressing in like sequin robes and shit, that whole deal. But Gorgeous George, like he was in an era when it was not okay to be gay. Like it was like it not in the area he was in, like Georgia, South Carolina, that whole deal. And he was just working it, dude. He had the crowd wanting to kill him. And then you have Gold Dust, and which was like the late '90s kind of equivalent to that, where he didn't even do like Gold Dust didn't do anything overt. It would be very subtle. Like he would just kind of like sniff a guy, like, and then people go crazy. It's like the most offensive is so great. I think that's what I like about wrestling though, is that once you've kind of conditioned, it's a Freudian or a even Pavlovian kind of response. Like you've conditioned the crowd to kind of know what the tells are, and then you kind of have control over them. And someone can just like The Rock could do like a very subtle like eyebrow thing, and then the whole arena goes wild. I did my psychology final on Stone Cold Steve Austin's music, where it was like,
Oh, yeah.
They conditioned the audience that when you hear before the music starts, before he even shows up, they hear glass breaking on the loudspeaker and they're going ape shit because they know it's Stone Cold. That was so interesting to me.
It's way cooler than Pavlov's dog.
Yeah, but it's the same principle. It's exactly the same. You're conditioning the crowd to respond to certain stimuli. That's what it is. CM Punk, fucking John Cena. Come on. Everybody loses their mind when they hear John Cena's theme song.
Yeah, but Cena was still big when I was into it, though. That's the thing. I kind of tuned out just before I think CM Punk came back, or came in.
Yeah.
So like when they brought back ECW and stuff, that was like when I sort of tuned out.
The rated R superstar. Even his music was like, before anything happens, like, you think you know me. Oh my God, it's Edge. Oh my God. Yeah.
That song's what, like 2002, 2004?
Yeah.
Or
It would have
Bridges
been,
debut album, yeah?
Edge would have been, yeah, Alter Bridge was the theme song for sure. But Edge would have been kind of John Cena's main rival. Like when John Cena was like rising to the tippy top of being a star, Edge was the heel that kind of made that happen. And then before that, there was like him and the Hardys and the Dudley Boys with those triple threat ladder matches and shit. Like, dude, like somebody interviewed him one time. They're like, that, like when you speared Jeff Hardy off the top of a 20-foot ladder. It's like, how did you do that without getting hurt? And he's like, "What do you mean without getting hurt? It hurt really bad. Like, it was terrible. We took years off our lives doing that shit."
To be fair, it's always Jeff fucking coming off shit, isn't it?
Jeff Hardy is a madman. Like, like people give him so much shit for being like on pills and stuff, but I'm like, he's in a lot of pain. Probably like that dude's been through a lot.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
like Mankind or Mick Foley is an anomaly that he's not strung out on drugs. Like to have gone through so much pain in his life, like the things that
Yeah.
he did, the stunts that he pulled off, the Undertaker, like people always talk about when he got thrown off the cell, like the top of the hell in the cell through the table, and that was bad. But then he gets back up, and then he goes to the top of the cell again, and then he goes through the top of the cell by accident. And there's a shot where his nose is his tooth is hanging out of his nose. Like, how does that even happen? Like, what went on inside of here where your tooth is hanging out of your nose like a booger, bro? Like, that's insane. I would cry if I stubbed my toe right now, like for sure.
Oh yeah. I could never do what they do. I'm a complete pussy.
But I was gonna tie this into video games somehow.
Work it. I will sit here in awe.
Same thing with video games. Like when you're just use the classical Doom as an example, the sound that enemies make is a cue. When you hear the sound of a cacodemon, same thing. You're like Pavlovian response. I have to respond to this now immediately before everything else. Like this imp doesn't matter. What's that? Okay, I did it. I think I pulled it off.
Yeah, I think that worked. I think that definitely worked. It's something I think I need to work on a little bit because what we do with a lot of the games that we put out, at least the ones that we develop internally, is a lot of the character we'll have so many different enemies and we'll have like 4 variants of this is the enemy that has the sword, these are pistol enemies. And then they all have a different thing to sort of say when they first come out.
Right.
So there isn't much of the player being like, oh, that's a threat, unless they start hearing like the weapon firing or something like that, or unless they're visually paying attention.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that I want to work on moving forward, I think.
I think like in the classic kind of 90s boomer shooters, they'd usually just kind of a new enemy showed up when it showed up, and you just had to kind of had to figure that out. Like the debut of the arch file is fucking terrible. It's like you don't even know it's there. You just keep like, why do these enemies keep coming back? It's ridiculous.
Legitimately, I think it would be a better game without the arch files.
Yeah. But then in the like starting from Doom 3 on, they do a much better job of like, here's a new enemy. Like, and then by the time you get to Doom Eternal, it's like, no, for real. Here's a new enemy. It's new. And then same thing with weapons, especially the super shotgun in Doom Eternal. Is like, here, you're gonna need it. Like, really important weapon. You can't miss it, right? But
So the shotgun comes out covered in yellow paint.
that is the essence of show business. Like if you go to the circus, like they, the ring announcers or the ringleader, whatever that guy's called, that his job is to make sure that the crowd understands what's going on, because otherwise they don't. Or even like working in pro wrestling, like the ring announcer, the person who comes out and says the following match is a triple threat match and the stipulations are, whatever. If the crowd doesn't understand that, it's just like, I don't even know what's going on right now. I'm like, I'm gonna go get a beer. Let me know if something happens. Okay, like the drama is what keeps people involved. So yeah, now we're gonna fire a little person out of a cannon through that ring over there, and just in case you didn't miss the ring, it's on fire. It's the thing that's on fire over here.
It's definitely a good way to pull the attention.
For sure, but in games, I think that is important. And there's a subtlety factor. There's like, how do you do it? And that's the name of the fucking UX, the UX experience. There's something wrong with that word, but yeah, the UXX experience. Maybe that's for porn sites. But you got to get the player to know what the hell's going on. And how to do things and all that kind of that deal. You're at least the DOSMan stuff is fairly simple, pretty straightforward. Like if you've played a first person shooter before, you kind of know the name of the game.
Yeah, we've not got anything too metal. We're signing some stuff that annoyingly that because I haven't announced it, I can't talk too much about at the moment.
Right.
But that pushes those boundaries a little bit and does kind of leave a bit more up to the player to sort of work things out. So we've got one that's quite sort of narrative heavy, and then we've got one that has all this kind of crazy combat-y stuff going on as well. And maybe we'll talk about those another time. But
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I have your Steam page pulled up just so I like don't accidentally say one that's not already on there because I think I've touched them all to some degree now.
Yeah. You haven't played the one I've been showing you some clips of lately, but
I have not, but I will.
nobody has except me. I'm the
Ooh,
important one, all right?
ooh, that
I am
means
the
it
DOSMan.
sucks.
It does.
You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. Please take a moment to tell at least one other person how much you enjoy the show. That's right. Grab that link and send it to that buddy you're thinking of who you know would be interested in what we're talking about right now. Maybe post it somewhere. I know it seems scary, but you can do it. I believe in you. Don't hesitate to leave a comment and a 5-star review, a like, wherever you're listening. And if you want, Patreon supporters for this show get episodes early, access to our secret Discord channel, chances to suggest questions to our guests, our games, and whatever else I can do for you. Every little bit helps. This podcast directly supports my ability to do what I love and take care of my growing family. The link is in the show notes. Thank you, bless you, stay in the keep. But yeah, like so far, like I really like Space Aliens in Space. I know you kind of dismissed it, like, oh yeah, that one, but like this is good. It has some really good ideas in it, and it's adorable.
I wouldn't say that I'm dismissive of it. Like, up to a point, it's one of my favorite ones that we've done, that we've developed internally. It's just for me. I think when I play that, I see sort of when it was made in terms of me kind of learning level design and me sort of learning how to work with the game engine. And some of it I would do differently if I did it again. But I feel that way with literally every single project that we do. Like by the time that I'm looking back on it like a couple of months later, I'm thinking, I should have done that. I should have done that. Now I've learned this. I should go back and implement this. And if I did, I would just only have one game and that would be it.
You've done a good job so far of kind of like covering all of the classic genre tropes, but without being like offensive, which is difficult. Like Flash of the Blade could have very easily been, super
Oh
fucking.
yeah, it could have been Shadow Warrior.
Yeah. Yeah. And Shadow Warrior is a fun game. I'm not going to take anything away from it, but it makes some stuff like there's this like one gag
It's
where you walk
culturally
into
insensitive.
you walk into this restaurant and it's like the soup of the day was cream of some young guy or something like that. I'm like, oh, that's a great joke, but I don't think it's supposed to be funny anymore. So.
I managed to avoid putting in the like the kabuki scream.
Yeah.
I was quite proud of myself for avoiding that one.
Yeah.
Low hanging fruit.
Lo Wang has very ambiguous ethnic backgrounds. Like, I don't know, he's not Japanese, he's not Chinese, he's not this, he's not that. He's just all of the whatever makes sense at the time.
I mean, I think what actually helped us make it less stereotypical was we didn't base it on Eastern ninja movies. We based it on Western ninja movies. And I think, like during the 80s anyway, Western ninja movies were a lot less about stereotypes, at least the ones I was watching. Things like Revenge of the Ninja, Ninja 3, The Domination. They're just cool. They're like, look, this is Sho Kosugi, he's a ninja man, and he's fucking shit up. And you're like, yeah, he's cool, I want to be him. And
I really like the, like Bruce Lee films and like all of them, to be honest with you. And, like Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, that kind of stuff. But honestly, a lot of the Kung Fu movies I watched were directly because I heard them in a Wu-Tang Clan song. I was like, that must be good.
All those intros are sick in the Wu-Tang songs. Like
A game of chess is like a sword fight. You must think first before you move. The Shaolin and the Wu-Tang could be dangerous. Yeah.
my father was the executioner for the Shogun.
Yeah, or like Ghostface Killer, like all of his solo stuff is like, man, I didn't even know kung fu movies had dialogue like this. Sometimes I'd be like, I think he's just like making shit up. Like he's got some young kid in there just like shooting lines. But no, there was a time a while back when who's that director that made Spy Kids? Robert Rodriguez. He had his own TV like network channel called El Rey, where he had the library for all of those old like kung fu movies that got shipped to America, all of it. And it was just like every Thursday or whatever was like Kung Fu Movie Thursday, and I was like, this is my jam, bro. Like, this is what I'm gonna watch.
You tell me about these things, I get so jealous that I was here in the UK watching like soap operas and stuff.
Well, you guys have your own kind of versions of cool shit that in America it's hard to get too. It's like we have like a whole network just called BritBox now, where we get all the BBC shit, like all the great sitcoms and dramas that have come out of the UK. Downton Abbey was huge here, huge.
Yeah, but every had Dog the Bounty Hunter. Dog the Bounty Hunter is way cooler than Downton Abbey.
I think the UK's had fucking very superior sitcoms for like a certain run, like Black Books and fucking the Peep Show. Come on, man, you guys had some good shit.
I'm weird with sitcoms. It takes a very specific formula to sort of get me going. I like the American Office, but I don't like the UK Office.
Okay.
I like New Girl.
Okay.
Parks and Recreation, but that's like kind of it.
You guys have Black Mirror?
Yeah, we got Black Mirror. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like Black Mirror. I wouldn't describe it as a sitcom, but
no, I mean kind of. The first episode is a kind of a sitcom. It's like that could happen in real life. Like it's so funny that was what 10 or so years ago that Black Mirror had this, the British Prime Minister fucks a pig episode. It's that could happen like tomorrow for all we know.
Jesus,
we live in a different age now. Like anything could happen. Who knows?
No, I believe we'll eventually end up in some weird dystopian world, and I think we're heading towards it.
I think that we live in a weird dystopian world, and we just continue to up the ante for what a dystopian future looks like. It's like we're just like, oh yeah, well it could be worse, right? Like, and that's a natural human kind of thing. Like, but we do kind of live in a strange, like imagine if you go back to 1900 and you're like made a movie about like there will be a war so big that hundreds of millions of people die in trenches, and people will start gassing each other, and there will be machine guns, which nobody had seen except in like Russia and Japan, where entire French armies are cut in half on the battlefield in a matter of hours. And then you said that to them, like, no. And then now that's like history. That happened.
Yeah.
Totally. Twice.
Yeah. I think when I think of dystopian, I think of just like I think of one thing in particular, and that's equilibrium. Which is amazing and does not get its fucking due. Like what a film. But I don't know why it is. It's just my brain does weird connections to things. But I don't think of anything else except equilibrium when I think about dystopian.
That's crazy. I think of Blade Runner. I think of Alien is a great example. I think of every single fucking thing that H.G. Wells wrote. I think of Asimov, especially, like The Last Question, I, Robot. There's so many options for dystopia.
Well, I feel like you're looking at me and you're thinking, oh, this guy must read.
I read.
Well, I mean,
this guy must read.
I can read, but it just doesn't happen very often.
I mean, they made movies out of a lot of these things. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Then we're game.
Like Around the World in 80 Days was a Jackie Chan movie, and man,
maybe one of these days I'll watch the Bible and get up to sniff.
You can watch the Bible. You can totally watch it. There's even I bought my wife the comic book version, the Action Bible.
Oh, wow.
Not like for like religious reasons, but she was just like, I don't really know these stories, and like people, obviously it comes up all the time in culture and all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to be familiar with that material, but I don't want to read this giant book in Old English. So I was like, okay. So we got the Action Bible. We've been reading that together. We just got to Moses, which was fun. Like, because if you don't know this stuff at all, like when you get to the part where like Abraham's about to sacrifice his own son or whatever, and she's like, I didn't know that it was this like there's so much drama in here. I'm like, oh, it's crazy. Like there's a whole part where like, yeah, they get Lot out of like Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's like in the comic book version, it's a little bit more like kid friendly too. So I'm like, okay, so just to explain the context here, basically like those guys are demanding that he send his guests out who are angels because they look pretty, and these men want to rape them in the streets. And that's why people don't think it's okay to be gay. But I think that the lesson here is that it's not okay to rape strangers or anyone at all.
That's not even a lesson. That's just common sense.
Yeah, it should be, but it wasn't at the time. Like somebody needed a book to tell them that. Like, oh, can you imagine being the first person to like, we should have an instruction manual, like how not to rape. How should we present that?
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah.
They getting shunned by their friend group because of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, truly though, it's just there's some wild stuff that happens in there, man. Like crazy.
I mean, my I come from a somewhat religious. I'm not religious, but I come from a religious background. My granddad is a vicar.
That's cool.
But most of the stuff I learned about religion, I learned from Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
The video game.
Yeah.
Which is also amazing. And
I like that you clarified the video game. I didn't read the book.
as if I'm not only reading, but reading poems. Come on.
Yeah. Epic
But,
poems. Beowulf. There's some good ones.
Yeah, I like the scene in. I like the line in Beowulf with Angelina Jolie.
That's great. Yeah. But yeah, so like, but it's actually crazy. Your grandfather was a Wicca. I mean, he probably would have been in the sort of the early stage when Wicca even existed too. So that's.
Oh no, vicar, like a Christian equivalent of a priest.
Oh,
like a reverend. There we go. I think you call them reverends. Yeah.
Okay. Never even heard that word. You said he was a Wicca. I thought you meant like he was a witch. Like,
Oh no.
like, that's interesting. Neat. Tell me more. No wonder you're so cursed.
He just likes Jesus, so nowhere near as exciting.
It can be. Yeah, there's some stuff that it's interesting where the like dividing line on what is and what is not magical is. Like, you go to like a proper Catholic church and they're like burning incense and like reading Latin and stuff. I'm like, this kind of seems like a little magic going on, bro. Maybe, perhaps. And then you have the like Aleister Crowley basically like replicates all of that stuff in the Order Templi, whatever his thing's called. But it's like basically just like Catholic Mass. You wouldn't even know the difference if you just didn't go to church and you walked into a fucking thelemic ritual. You'd be like, "Oh, I'm at church." Okay.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time,
Mm. Yeah.
But it's something we've found quite interesting recently because back in July we published a game called Reverend,
Mhm.
but made by this Swedish guy who's done films for Troma.
Why didn't you call it Vika? Should have been Vika.
Well, because maybe the rest of the world would have had an idea what we're talking about.
Localization.
But like, it's not like an anti-religious game by any means. But like, it's got like upside down crosses in there, and you're shooting demons, and you're like chasing after the archbishop, the Archbishop Vile. And he was telling me like, oh, I went to this sort of mass at Christmas, and I felt really like out of place because of what I'd done, what I'd made.
Makes sense.
Because of Reverend. And then after that, we published Satan as well. And we've actually had a guy who's reached out to us, and he's covered a couple of our games, who is a Reverend, a vicar. And he's done like, oh, Reverend playing Reverend, a Reverend reviews Satan. And he's doing all these little ad libs and quips during it, saying like, "Oh, as usually happens in the church, and like as most vicars do, as most reverends do."
I can legally introduce myself with the title like Reverend or whatever I want. Like I am an ordained minister, like for real. And it's not like I don't like preach at a church or anything, but I got
Yeah.
it so that I could marry my friend and his wife, like,
Oh,
years ago.
nice.
And then I was like, "Okay, well, that's neat." Actually, you do have, like, at least in the States, you have, like, legal things you can and can't do, like, because of that. So, like, if you told me a secret, you know, as a confession, I cannot be compelled in any court to talk about it.
Oh,
I could
amazing.
just be like, "Oh, it was a confession." So, even in the military, that was actually kinda nice because, like, I could be like, you have, like, real, what's the word? Like, confidentiality, like,
Yeah.
if you wanna talk to me about something, just say it's a confession, don't worry about it. It'll just be our
Cool.
little secret. Between you and me and the big man upstairs. Wink.
Let me think about my illegal secrets and come back to you on
It doesn't have to be
that.
illegal, it could just be something you don't want people to know about. It doesn't have to be that if you did commit a crime, don't tell me about it. How about that? Because I don't know if my license even extends to the UK. It'd be interesting. I wonder if that actually would count. You should look into that. Like, can I practice in the UK? Like, if I wanna start my own Church of Cthulhu, and
Oh, hell yeah.
that'd be
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
I'll find you a building. I've got a shed.
Yeah. It all started on a podcast talking about reality TV. How do you condition people to follow specific responses? And then they began the Church of DOSMan.
It's the Church of Reverend Cthulhu and
Yes.
DOSMan.
The flying spaghetti monster kinda shit. Um, but the states have, like, really strict, like, laws about how you have to respect people's religious freedom. So, like, if let's say you're a sergeant in the military and you are also a worshiper of the flying spaghetti monster, you're legal, like, the same way that, like, a Muslim would be allowed to wear their turban, you can walk around with a spaghetti colander on your head. Now, no one really does this, but if you wanted to argue it, like, in court, you probably could get away with it, like, for real.
In theory, would it act just like an extra layer of armor?
I mean, I think that a spaghetti
I
colander
think it's a good idea.
yeah, it's like, if it's aluminum, even better because then you can't get your brain read by the aliens, like, perfect.
Yeah. Should be regulation.
I think the whole world should worship the flying spaghetti monster. Pastafarianism, that's the name of the religion. Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. I'll look into that. I'll bring up another tab for that when I'm finding out how to VPN myself into getting to Max.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about, like, so are you already working at PERT when you founded DOSMan? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I've been at Perp for about a year,
Mhm.
doing like some production stuff on the console titles,
Mhm.
um, and sort of I don't even know how it really happened, but I knew about this game engine, Easy FPS Editor, for a couple of years. Uh, I think E1M1 or Reload had done like a game jam on it where we had uh, uh, loads of people like signed up to it and stuff and
Mhm.
made games on it. And I thought like, oh, this is super cool. What you can do with this. So many beginners are trying it out, which is kind of, I guess, a deciding factor there. Uh, and then I was having a chat with my friend who now does DOSMan with me, um, and just saying like, oh, I wonder if I could make a game in this. So I went out and I took photos of my phone of a bunch of different textures and things like that. I recorded me like punching and things like that to use for weapon sprites and to use for enemy sprites. And I put together a game in about 2 weeks called Concrete Visions.
Mhm.
And it's still on itch, but it's kind of horrible considering I made it in 2 weeks, and it was the very first thing I ever did in game dev. But I was like, okay, I've made something here. I've actually made a game, and everything here is me, and that's probably why it sucked. But it was all me.
Hey, you did it.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
And it's something to look back on and poke fun at. Like I went back and played it a couple of weeks ago, and oh my god, what was I thinking?
But you did it. That's the important part.
Yeah,
You
but
did, in fact, complete and publish a game, which is,
yeah,
most folks never get there.
it's a lesson learned. It's a step towards the goal.
Mhm.
But that step would be like moldy and like having mushrooms growing out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of from there, it just snowballed. Like, I then did the original version of Flash of the Blade, where I thought, why don't I try drawing and doing pixel art? And I wouldn't say that went well either. I was on sort of like a one-hit kill train at the time. And one-hit kill doesn't work very well with very dark, foggy games with hit scan enemies. I found
Right.
that quite quickly. Because you would just load into the level and immediately die and not even know where you got shot from. But like then it kind of took off from there because I started working with an artist who'd made a few easy FPS editor games that I'd liked in the past. And we just ended up sort of really working well together. And we had the guy who I was doing DOSMan with was doing composing for the games as well. So we had a composer, we had an artist, and we had me doing like all the level design, all of the sort of game design aspects, finding sounds out in the wild and stuff. And I think we got to a point where we started to make games that people enjoyed and games that people find fun. And it just sort of tied in with me sort of learning everything for my day job at Perp on Steam and things like that. So I could just learn things doing DOSMan and apply it to Perp, and learn things at Perp and apply it to DOSMan. And it came together quite nicely. And now we've got quite a strong library, I think, considering we've been making games since November 2023.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, that is correct. That is the date.
I think your first, or at least of what's on Steam, Flash of the Blade was January 25th, 2024. And then you have a pretty steady, flow through 2024. And now, Satan came out in January 2025.
Yep.
And more to come. Like, it's actually what's impressive, especially for a smaller publisher, is like, in the Keep, right? We've been working on the same game for 5 fucking years. And it's going to come out this year. I promise.
I will hold you to that.
You can. I'm come hell or high water. Stellar Valkyrie is coming out this year for sure. But it's been a long journey of like you said, learning, and then I literally went away for 2 years to go do the 3D Realms thing and learn everything that I could. And God bless those guys for, I really felt like I got taken under a wing, like, that you got potential, kid. And I was like, thank you. I really want to learn a lot. And then I think I offered a lot too. Like for a company that's growing, like coming out of the military, I was like, I kind of know a thing or two about organizations and leadership. So, it was good. It was a good synergy there for a while. But taking lessons learned from here and applying it there, vice versa. I got to experience some things where I was like, I'm not gonna, or I am gonna do that with my project. Like, I want to make sure that I don't make this mistake, or that I do take this lesson learned and make sure that it works, out in the long run. And just in general, man, like it's very impressive to have 5 games in basically less than a year, period.
I mean, I think a large sort of difference is how long are you like making Stellar Valkyrie, like in terms of playtime?
I have no idea. Not even there yet. It's 8 levels in total, but like the length of the playthrough through a certain level is like, pretty. I would say that you're gonna have people who can speedrun these things in a few minutes, but like getting the full gameplay and like unlocking every secret and every little interactive thing that you can do is probably gonna be a lot. And then I think the thing that's the pre-production on Stellar Valkyrie was a lot too, because we had a script, with a full storyline and voice actors and everything done before we even like really put pen to paper on the rest of it. So, and that was a big part of it too. So there was like experimentation going on, like, well, this would be like the first world, and like we rebuilt the first level like dozens of times, really, like just what if we did this, what if we did that, to kind of decide what kind of game it would be in that domain. But then on the other end of it, it's like me and Chris meticulously writing dialogue and then going and auditioning voice actors and making sure that it was what we wanted it to be, and then recording it over and over again. And then like sound designer Ben, because we're all part-time too. This is, everybody's doing this in their free time. So it was like making an appointment with him, like, okay, can you make this voice sound like that or whatever, and it just lots of stuff like that. And then the music, it's just so many things. As opposed to if I had just said, okay, I'm gonna make a first person shooter, it's gonna take, I need textures, I need sound design, I need gun sounds, I need to draw sprites for everything, and just get it done. I could have done that, and I kind of wish I had to some degree. Don't get me wrong, but
I mean,
feature creep gets the best of
you've
us.
had a bunch. You've had a bunch go on sort of during it as well. Like not even just being away in Denmark sort of stuff, but you've had like staff changes there as well.
Mhm.
And I think when we first spoke about it, you were quite keen to get it out quite fast. And of course, all those things have sort of come at you, and the fact that you've kept resilient and kept pushing through and finding more people who sort of see your vision the way that you want it. That's awesome.
I did really think that originally that it would be maybe 6 months to a year dev cycle.
Yeah.
But then we, kind of, first of all, it took longer than that in the first place. And then, yeah, Scumhead, after Vomitorium, he had to go do his thing. Like, and it was obvious too. There was no bad blood about that or anything. On my end, I was just like, I get it, man. Like, if I had $100,000, I wouldn't be fucking doing this. I'd be making whatever I wanted. So, like, go,
Yeah.
And Morta looks amazing. And I
No,
think that
does.
there's some stuff in Morta that I can tell, like, I'm not accusing him of any kind of like plagiarism. I just mean, like, I think we helped each other out. Like, he learned some stuff. We definitely learned a lot from him because he's like you had published a lot of games, and they're not necessarily like the most amazing game in the world. His artwork has always been amazing, but his game design, up and down throughout, like Shrine 2, you could see him growing and learning. And then, like Lycanthorn, that, was him experimenting with the open world thing. And then you have like Vomitorium going full on 3D Metroidvania, with the Dark Souls elements too. Like I could see him growing as a game designer. And I think that's probably from, working with other people to a degree because he hadn't really done that before.
I mean, weird sidebar, but Shrine is actually like one of the first. Well, it's the first mod that I ever played, and it's the
Really?
first modern PC title that I dived into when I got into PC gaming. So I think I got into PC gaming like 2019, 2020.
Mhm.
And Shrine was it's free. It's on Steam. I'll see if I can run that. I had this old like Windows 7 desktop PC from like 2010 or something. And I've been playing old disc-based PC games. So I had like Vivisector. I had a few other bits, Evolver, which is amazing. But then I was like, let me see what all this sort of Steam stuff is about. And Shrine was one of those games that I picked up, and I was like amazed at how cool it was. I had no idea what GZ Doom was at the time, but I thought, oh, this is great. Like this looks absolutely beautiful. I love all the enemy designs. I love the artwork, and I had so much fun with Shrine, man.
That's great. I'm trying to remember the first like mod that I played ever. Probably, honestly, it might have been Brutal Doom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I had gotten into the Doom and Quake stuff, and then somebody was like, "Dude, you got to play Brutal Doom," and it was like on a Zendronum server. Like, we're gonna co-op this together. It'd be great. And actually, it was my friend Steve who did the original and the Keep logo. Yeah. So that was probably my introduction to it. And then I got into more sophisticated things like Russian Overkill and gameplay mod stuff. Like that was kind of the jam. Like more or less like straight up Doom, but with just crazy weapons and monster stuff. And Z Damon, they did the like survival thing where you play through an entire map pack, and then now we're gonna turn it up a notch, and it's like random enemies and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's double damage, whatever.
Yeah, a lot of my sort of mod experience has been more on total conversion side, things like Harmony.
Yeah.
Did you ever play the demo for Membrane?
No, tell me about it.
Dude, I'm going to send you the demo for Membrane. It
Okay.
was a GZ Doom project, probably going back about 10 years at this point, where you're shooting aliens, like proper green aliens. Here we go. Yeah, 2016 it was posted on Doom World.
Okay.
So
That-
we are going back.
Back when I was graduating high school and joining the Air Force.
I don't. How did I stumble upon this? I wasn't even into PC gaming at the time.
No, I did a little bit of like, like if you go back, because the boomer shooter thing, like I've said this, I don't know how many times on the podcast, but like Dusk was kind of like the thing that took it off, like made it
Yeah.
a thing. But prior to that, there were others. Like there was Rack, there was Strafe, like a couple of digital games, High Hell. But they didn't really catch on. Like they just didn't nail the formula and hit at the right time. Dusk was like, boom.
I think a really good sort of showcase of that is Retro Blazer, because Retro Blazer had its Kickstarter just before the boom of the boomer shooter.
You say hi to Sam? My wife brought me a coffee. She's so wonderful. He
Oh,
wants to watch Love Is Blind with you.
Yeah,
Do you like Married at First
just
Sight?
came out
Australia?
today and I'm already avocado.
Thank you, baby.
Mwah.
Okay. So Membrane, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You
I
supposed
was
to
saying,
love coffee.
I was saying, I think a good sign of sort of what happened with the boomer shooter boom is Retro Blazer, because it had its Kickstarter just kind of I think a year before Dusk came out, and just didn't find the audience it needed because no one was used to that sort of old school FPS gameplay at the time.
Right.
So it ended up not succeeding in its Kickstarter, but then it's still sort of kept going throughout the years. And one of my favorite things I've been able to do since joining Perp is I've now signed Retro Blazer. So now it's happening. Now it's definitely happening.
Right.
But it's like a proper throwback shooter. It's made in dark places. It's fresh because it's techno Egyptian, which I feel like no one else can really say that they are.
There, the other one that comes to mind is Total Chaos is actually coming out through Apogee now, but that was one of the like most impressive Doom mods that had ever been done. There for a while.
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah, this looks great. Like I'm looking at the little trailer for it right now.
For Membrane.
Yeah. And this is
Yeah,
you say
I
this
mean,
is
I
the
don't know.
same folks that are making Retro Blazer.
Oh, no.
No? I totally misunderstood you then.
I just jumped onto a second tangent from my first tangent. Don't have me back. No one will ever be able to follow.
That's okay.
But yeah, different developers, different development teams. But Membrane is cancelled. Retro Blazer is coming out.
Gotcha. That's fucking awesome, man.
I'd recommend you download the demo for Membrane, because it's really sick.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm in a race with time to finish Baldur's Gate before my child is born, and then I know I can't spend 8 hours on an RPG. During stay up all night just losing myself in that world for a while at least.
Yeah, you're gonna have to abandon mid to long length games. I'll tell you what would work quite well for you. Some bite-sized boomer shooters.
I know that's probably just bite-sized games in general too. Like there's so much good stuff like horror games that are shorter and more manageable, or at least you can play them in a iterative way. As opposed to, if you're playing a shooter, you hit save, you come back to it 6 weeks later, push, just start shooting shit again. But when it comes to like a fucking immersive world with an RPG and a story and everything, it's like I got to remember what I was doing. What was I doing? How do I?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
But what I like about a lot of the bite-sized horror is that it can be super short, but really sticks with you. Things like the Night of the Scissors, like it's like an hour-long game, but I still think about it now, like it's super awesome. And there's another one set in like an old arcade, and you've got to play the arcade machines and the monster coming out after you, and it is called. Oh no, I remember everything. Why don't I remember what this game is called?
That sounds like one of the DreadX collections where you hit like.
No, it was published by Bonus Stage. Hold on, I'm on their thing. It's called Janitor Bleeds. There we go.
Janitor Bleeds. I had Steam open for this because I anticipated you and I would just be naming off random games the whole time. So, man, I wish Steam had like an affiliate program so bad. Like, because I do like the
So
Amazon
when you
affiliate
recommend-
thing. Yeah, like I do that with like books I mention or whatever. I'm like, hey, this is if you want to buy a book, I'll get a few cents or whatever the fuck, if you click on this. But yeah, if Steam would let you do that, I would be fucking.
Oh yeah.
That's,
I mean, you know me. I know everything nobody knows.
that is the truth. So you did you work on E1M1 or was it not till Reload that you kind of got involved?
Sort of behind the scenes.
Okay.
As much as I could be. Like, I did some writing like a bunch of years ago for websites and stuff. But with E1M1 and Reload, I was little Mister behind the scenes, suggesting games and stuff.
I thought about buying E1M1 at one point, like the company, not a magazine. Like I thought about
I think you'd have done well, honestly.
It was just too much drama. Like I didn't
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to get involved in the whole debacle between Jake and Zach at the time and everything. It was a discussion because we did that Quake, like extra magazine where just Quake stuff. It was me and a morpher like did all that everything, and it was like in the keep on the front cover. And I was like, yeah, this could be really cool, but then just I don't want to get between that.
That is super awesome though. I've got a copy of that issue. I think one of the only copies in existence.
That's awesome. I wish I had a copy of it.
I'll rip it in half and send you half of it.
But there was some great stuff. It was like really, really important, I think, to a lot of not just like the magazine itself, but the community that was built around that magazine was such a dependable, like, hey, you guys like boomer shooters? We're making boomer shooters. 3D Realms had several copies of E1M1 just sitting around the office. Just like all over, because they're, Ion Fury was on the cover, whatever, that kind of thing.
I think Aftershock was on the cover as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because Aftershock took forever to come out. I was the producer on Aftershock, or the technically brand manager on Aftershock. Like I didn't like manage the development of the project. I managed the marketing of the project, but it was like it took forever to get that fucking shit done. It was really good though. I liked it.
Well, what I found crazy is probably about a year ago, whenever it was that Graven came out of early access, was that January last year? February last year?
January 2024 time frame, and then Wrath was shortly thereafter, February or March.
I was flicking through the old physical issues of E1M1, and I opened the very first issue that they did. So the issue 0, the one that was released to like get people to sign up to the first Kickstarter. And the very first game that's written about in there is Graven. And I was like, it's crazy that I'm flicking through this now, and this game has only just come out.
Yeah.
And then I went to the next page. I think the next page was Core Decay.
Yeah. And Core Decay, I think, is eventually still going to come out, but it's like essentially, like Saber didn't want to fund it anymore. And I won't get into all the background on it, but it's just like, this doesn't make sense for our portfolio. We have all this other stuff. Like Tempest Rising is obviously the big thing at Slipgate now, which should be coming out probably around the same time that we release this podcast or thereabouts. And
I mean,
that, you got to make business decisions at a certain point.
Feel free to cut this out if I'm completely off base and wrong, but I feel like Core Decay is a lot more commercial than an RTS in 2025. How many RTS success stories are there like a year?
How about I'll tell you this off the air. I'll tell you what I think about this, not on the air, because there's more to this puzzle, but I don't think I'm supposed to divulge. Fred Schreiber is still the number one Patreon supporter of my podcast, so he might actually hear it and get upset.
No, you're good.
But I think that just my honest opinion actually is that the idea is to make RTS cool again. Like they really want that.
Okay.
And, it also just sheer dollar amount invested into it. If you really, look at it. Like you want to get a return on that investment. If you lose Core Decay, you lose a few $100,000. If you lose something like Tempest Rising, that's a make or breaker for a whole company kind of thing. But yeah, we'll maybe like sidebar on that, and then the audience could just be pissed at us. You can comment, speculate in the comments. You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. If you love this show and you love supporting indie video games, please take a moment to check out In the Keep's upcoming Stellar Valkyrie. Built in the GZ Doom engine, this retro first-person shooter puts you in the universe of space bird bounty hunter Falco, who is on a mission to save his ex-girlfriend from the evil Black Star cult. Just type birdgame.space, that's BIRD game.space into your browser. Hit enter, smash the wishlist button, and stay tuned. What will they say?
I think that there's so many genres which I'd love to see like a proper resurgence of. I feel like we haven't had proper good arcade races in a long time, except maybe like one or two every couple of years. Like gone are the days of Burnout and the Hot Wheels games being good, and like the Need for Speed games of like the early 2000s.
Flat out.
Underground 2.
Need for Speed Underground 2 is the greatest fucking racing game ever. There's nothing even close to it. It's the best.
I put Burnout 3 above it.
Really?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. I'll go back and play Burnout 3 and then I'll come back to you with it.
I will say Riders on the Storm is infinitely better with Snoop Dogg.
That track rules. That honestly, like so many good tracks are on that. Like 24s by T.I. is on that fucking soundtrack. Like, oh, dude, it was perfect. That it changed my life.
And that was a Midnight Club age as well.
Midnight Club was really big. Yeah, just there's not a lot of arcade shooters anymore. Follow Me, the guy that was making Unleash Hell, which he's still making.
Hover Muscle, right?
Yeah, so Hover Muscle was like kind of he and I were talking about like there's no arcade racers anymore, and like it would be totally dope. So I think he's like, first of all, he's dealt with a lot of like real life shit, but he's also like still working on both projects. I mean, when he can and everything, and I'm hoping that at least one of them sees the light of day. By all, as far as I know, they're both still intended to come out. It's just like the timeline has been like way longer than he thought. But I would love to see more like genuine arcade racers. There's been a few, but they're not like arcadey so much. Like Art of Rally was kind of like the top down racer sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Third person race didn't really hit for me. Pretty game, very pretty game.
Let me introduce you to one.
Okay.
I don't know when it's coming out, but there's a prologue on Steam. It's called Night Runners, and it's very sort of Japanese tuner. Skylines and shit like that.
Okay.
And it's absolutely stunning. It looks like a PS2 game, but like how you remember PS2 games looking, not how they actually look.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the page for you. But
I should have got Vic to bring me the Piss Shit 2 cup. I have a really nice PlayStation 2 commemorative cup. Oh, Night Runners.
But yeah, like that Night Run is absolutely stunning, and I can't wait for more of that. I mean, I think this is the game that really brought into my head like, oh, we need more of this.
I'm a sucker for trailers that start off with like, "Do you remember?"
That big Earth, Wind, and Fire guy.
Yeah. I've seen Earth, Wind, and Fire live in concert, and they are amazing. Still,
that sounds incredible.
Yeah, that's a throwback, bro. But yeah, I love that stuff. Funk, like 70s, 80s funk music. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this looks dope. This looks like exactly what I want in my life. When's it supposed to
coming out?
Oh, let's get them on the Planet Gym. I'm gonna hunt them down.
It was Kickstarter, I think. So it probably says on the Kickstarter what their sort of due date is.
Yeah, I just need to Need to find they don't have their contact information on Steam.
I have their contact information if you want it.
Yeah, let's make that happen. You can be on the podcast with me. We'll pick we'll be like, when is it coming out, bitch?
When is it coming
Give
out?
us
And
the game.
would you like to sign with DOSMan Games?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You don't fit the games at all, but it,
Are you
it'll work.
having trouble with your milestone development pipeline? I can help you do it.
Okay, so all of the estimated delivery on the Night Runner stuff is May 2025.
Mm. Okay.
So maybe it's coming out very soon.
Just in time for my birthday. Wink, wink, everybody.
Oh wow, I feel like I'm in 4D. I got the sound of Wink Wink and the visual of Wink Wink.
Yeah, you should get the smell-o-vision version. It's coming out soon.
But yeah, it's weird. Like I of course I love all these different genres. I love horror games. I love racing games. I love RTS games as well. But for me, like I feel like we're creating something quite specific with DOSMan, where we're doing not only just bite-sized FPS games, but they're bite-sized FPS games created in a very specific game engine. And they're all the same price, and they're all the same. They all get like the same push. And I think I'm probably wrong, but I think by doing all that and sort of setting expectations, it's a good idea. Question mark.
I think people making art is a good idea. Whether or not it makes sense business-wise is always going to be the question that we have to contend with. But I mean, I'm a patron of the arts over here, man. I mean, and the Keep is a business, but Tyler Brenner is a patron of the arts. So I just want to see like beautiful, cool things get made. Period, and whatever we have to do to get that to happen without anyone dying is I'm for.
Me too. Me too. Definitely.
So you worked on? Did you write for Reload magazine? And then were you already kind of like coming up with ideas of what you thought your games would be when you started putting them together? Or was that kind of a later development, like in your Rolodex of concepts?
So the first thing that happened with Concrete Visions, which is the very first prototype thing that we did, was I realized what I could do, which was not draw, take photos of things. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll make something that's sort of, don't play it and listen to this, but Condemned like. It's nothing like Condemned. It's a far cry from Condemned. But that just sort of fell into place because of that. Because I was doing the photo source textures, I was like, oh, okay, something that feels like urban, because that's what's around me. I don't have like pyramids around me or like a lot of different things. I just live in a city. From there, it kind of became a bit more thought out. So I was like, oh, well, at the moment I'm watching a lot of ninja movies, so let's make a ninja game. And then once I started collaborating with Fred Ritchie, the artist,
right?
We spent like a short little while with an Excel spreadsheet, and we jotted down themes that we wanted to do. So we were like, oh, we want to do medieval, we want to do ancient Egypt, we want to do like a space game, a sci-fi game. And then we literally put it into a spin the wheel to work out what we were going to do.
That's awesome.
We've still got that wheel. It's got a bunch of different things on it that we're planning to do.
When you spin a cowboy western game, can I be a cowboy in the game? That'd be pretty dope. I think I have the accent for it. You know, I could pull it off. Make my grandfather proud.
You can be the cow if you want.
You know, I think I probably brought this up with you before, but like all of your games remind me of like what Duke Nukem Time to Kill did in one game, where it's like, okay, instead of we're like Duke in space and Duke in ancient Rome and Duke in the Old West, you just do it all in one, and that was really, really cool. That game had huge impact on me, like enormous impact on like who I would become as a video game player and then later developer. I really, really, really liked the continually going to different time spaces. And that trope has been done. It's not
Yeah, so like
infinite.
time splitters would be another
Mhm.
good case of that.
Yeah. There's so many cool things you could do when you just introduce a little bit of a sci-fi element. But
We've been pretty good with it as well with the sort of results of the spin the wheel. We've not landed on anything and been like, oh god, let's respin that.
Mhm.
We've abandoned one project, in which I think is pretty good considering how long we've been going. We just sort of realized it wasn't going to be very doable.
Yeah.
Which was we wanted to do something that was like the Army Men games.
Yeah. Okay.
Remember those?
Toy
Where you're like a
soldiers.
little toy soldier playing
Mhm.
around in a house where everything's like oversized. But we
Yeah.
realized the sheer amount of detail we need to make it feel like a lived-in house would just be too much. Like we'd have to be modeling forks and knives and spoons and plates, and that would just be some of what's on the dining table level. And then we'd think about like, we need all these different soaps to be in the bathroom level,
Yeah.
all this different stuff to be here. And
I played Air Combat, which was like the miniature,
oh yeah,
same thing but with a helicopter, and it was really really fun too. On the Game Boy Color, I want to say.
oh wow,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It's
way back.
they did a couple of the Iron Man games which were like inside people's houses as well, rather than sort of
Mhm.
the more, because those Iron Man games were cool, like the air attack ones and
Yeah.
whatnot. But they didn't really feel much like they were toys at all. It just felt like, okay, yeah, it's just an army game, but they happen to be toys. Whereas in
Yeah,
the house ones, it feels
yeah.
more like, okay, yeah, they're toys.
I think that's awesome though. I think there's a never ending like Rolodex or spinning wheel of ideas that you can just throw into it. Like, well, it's actually really smart what you're doing. You have the idea of what the gameplay is. The engine is there. The mechanics are pretty much set in stone, and it's just you can infinitely forever like invent new creative settings and backgrounds for that to take place in, and that's probably never going to get old for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, we're getting deeper as well with each release. Like,
yeah.
when we were playing, when we were making Flash of the Blade, we were like, okay, let's experiment with gravity and player vision. So we
Mhm.
were like, okay, so we'll have lower gravity, so you can do the sort of ninja glidey jumps,
Mm.
and we'll have areas which the player can't really see past their face, and they have to rely on sound to know where those ninjas are coming from. So there's like a wheat field level where you've got to attack the ninjas in the wheat field, or you can just kind of bunny hop around and round them up and then kill them like you would in Call of Duty Zombies. Um, and then we were like, okay, with DOSMan, Space Aliens in Space, let's play around with dialogue. Let's
Mhm.
get some like almost like visual novel sections in the game, and really lean into story. With Reaper, there was a lot we wanted to lean into, but everything sort of broke like a couple of months before release, so we just sort of it came out.
Yeah.
And with Skarab, we're playing with things like traps and enemies having different phases. So
Mhm.
like some of the bosses will start by attacking you one way, and then partway through the fight they'll attack you a different way. Um, and the stuff that we're adding in feels bigger than that. So now we're adding in our future games things like lifts and elevators, and swimming, dashing. Like I feel like we're starting to get to a point where we know the engine well enough to push it in different directions. So it won't feel like what I really don't want to happen with the DOSMan games is for people to feel like, oh, it's just a reskin of the last one. And I feel like the more we learn, the less possible that is.
Yeah. You just
And
keep getting better.
as long as people can see that we're improving and we are kind of working out different ways to do cool things in the engine, the less likely that will happen, the more people will appreciate what we're doing.
Well, now that you've got a flow, like of several releases, what's like the turnaround on a typical DOSMan game? You would say, like average, from idea, from the click of the wheel on this is the genre to completion. What does that look like?
We've never had a project at the same amount of time.
Okay.
But what I'm most proud of is the remake of Flash of the Blade, which isn't much of a remake, just one level is similar in layout. Took us 3 weeks from concept to release.
That makes sense.
So like the artist is he's super fast. He's got a template for each like width of enemy. So he's got like skinny guy, medium guy, fat guy, and he just kind of paints over those and makes it work. So he can put stuff together really, really fast. And
That's
then it's
really
just a
smart,
case of how long
actually.
it takes me to make different environments for them to be in.
It's almost like a Henry Ford assembly line for video game production at that point, which is cool. It's
Yeah.
really from a business standpoint, it's really, really smart.
We've made a video game factory farm.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
But yeah, like some of our projects have taken us what we consider to be too long. Reaper took probably about 10 months, and by the end of Reaper, none of us wanted to be working on Reaper anymore. And I think that was a big wake up call as to how we wanted to sort of present and how we wanted to shape DOSMan moving forward into these sort of bite-sized experiences, into being smaller dev cycles, allowing us to explore different themes a lot faster while still having fun doing what we're doing. Because although we are like earning money from our games on Steam and whatnot, we still want it to feel like a hobby because that's where we get the joy from it.
And they're all like $3. I mean, it's a fucking steal. I genuinely think you could charge significantly more, but I admire your generosity.
I've had this conversation with a bunch of people, both involved in a financial perspective and not. But there are 3 games which stopped me from wanting to charge more, and that is Chop Goblins, which is $4, Zorch, which is about $5, and Cultic, which is $10.
Right.
I don't feel like our games are long enough or at a good enough level to compete with either of those 3.
I don't think you're really necessarily competing. Like if you let's just spitball here. If you released every one of these games right now, like as if they had never been $3, but they were $7.99, and then you were still offering like a 50% discount, people would still buy them, and you would be making an extra $1 per game.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're probably going to move more copies simply by being on sale. Versus if as it stands, with a $3 game, you put it on a 50% discount for $1.50. Steam takes 50 cents. Now you're making $1 per unit sold, and splitting that between you, whoever your developer may be, all that. I just feel like you could be doing yourself a few favors, like as in terms of like getting your own business off the ground and like being able to like use your money to like not just pay yourself, but I mean like invest in more stuff going forward. And far be it for me to give business advice. It's not like I fucking released a game this year, so.
No, but you will.
Yeah. I shall, and I can't wait. I can't wait for Stellar Valkyrie, but also just like I can't wait to take every lesson I've learned from Stellar Valkyrie and apply that to more things going forward, because that's going to be
Stellar Valkyrie 2. Yeah.
Interstellar Valkyrie. I don't know if I want to do that immediately. Like if there's like so much demand, like if it's like some kind of huge hit and people are like, we want it now, like I might change my mind. But I have other things I'd like to do first.
What in your opinion would be a huge hit?
A huge hit?
What in your opinion would be a success?
Like, do you mean like relative to Stellar Valkyrie, or do you mean like what kind of game do I think would be a huge hit?
Like if Stellar Valkyrie releases in I'm going to pull a date out my ass, and you're going to be like, okay, yeah, that's the actual date. Stellar Valkyrie releases on the 2nd of November 2025 at 12 p.m. GMT.
Right.
And it sells, well, we're not even talking about money, actually. We'll say it gets X amount of Steam reviews. What number does X have to be for you to be happy?
I'm definitely thinking money and not Steam reviews, but
I just didn't want to put you on the spot to be financially talking.
Yeah, I could do
Yeah.
both. So, I mean, Steam reviews wise, look, most boomer shooters, and there are going to be the exceptions that you and I both look at, like Cultic, etc. Like there are these
Yeah.
games that are huge, massive successes, Sulaco, that kind of thing. I'm not necessarily comparing it to that, and definitely not Cultic. Cultic is in Unity. It's got a full blown fucking publisher behind it. Like really,
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons for it to be successful besides just that it's great, and it is great.
Oh, yeah.
But like literally for me, it would be like, is it financially viable? Like, if I break even on Stellar Valkyrie, I will call that a success. Like, I'll be like, yes. I mean, and it's not an expensive game. And probably by your standards it is, but I mean, like by video game standards, I have seen lesser video games cost $250,000. And I'm nowhere near that. Like, we're talking way less digits and zeros and everything than that. But if it like significantly like 1.5 2.5 increase from what I put into it, then I would say like this is a success. This is massive to me. Like, and then like you said with Steam reviews, like I would need to see like demand. Like we want more of this. This is awesome. This is great. As opposed to not throwing anybody under the bus, but like something like Buff, where it's like it's an amazing game and it only has like 20 Steam reviews or something like that. And I don't think Omar's a millionaire yet. I think he will be, but it'll be a few games from now, something like that. And I also like I am very realistic for me. Like this is our studio's first game. Like and I always quote John Romero, like Wolfenstein 3D was my 87th game. I'm like, yeah, okay. It takes a while and also there's like recouping on your investment with your back catalog. So in your case, you're in an excellent position where like when you do put out a game that like is a world changer, people are just going to buy every DOSMan game after that. Like you just bundle them all together for cheap and boom. And now you have real revenue flow back into your company. And it's not like dependent on you to deliver the next thing. It's just you have a library. That's how Bethesda makes money.
What we see a lot is because we've got the DOSMan collection bundle on Steam.
Mhm.
Whenever we do release something new, we release it and we put it in that bundle so that when people are looking on the store page, they see, oh, we can buy this new game that's just come out for $3, or we could spend like $10 and get all of these games. And then they try the game that they've got in addition to the one that they were meaning to get. They leave reviews. Algorithm then boosts it. It sees more people. I think the way that I envisioned things working was a bit like the horror developer Chiller's Art, where they release stuff quite regularly, and it's always these small sort of bite-sized experiences, and then people become not necessarily fans of the individual games, but fans of the studio, and they start to know what to expect from the studio. And I think that's what I would like from DOSMan eventually. Come towards something like that.
I think that's a solid way to look at it. Like you could just keep growing that library, and eventually something will, spark that, the return.
Because we're not. I think what's quite good about us being like $3 a game is people aren't playing our games and they're thinking, oh, you know what, Dusk is better than this. Oh, Sulaco is better than this. They're playing through and they're thinking, oh, is this worth like a quarter of Nightmare Reaper? Or I think it's even less. I think it's like, is this worth like an eighth of Nightmare Reaper? Yeah. And I think
Nightmare Reaper's amazing, by the way. That's a fucking great game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. To be an eighth as good as that would make me very happy. And if people think that we are, then that's awesome.
I have like multiple kind of branches of my ambition, like Stellar Valkyrie in general. Like I want to be the best of the GZ Doom games. That would be great. Because I mean the high water mark right now is Sulaco. And there's reasons why it is what it is. And it's amazing just in terms of like what they're able to accomplish with UI in the Doom engine alone is incredible. Forget about all the other amazing things they do. And then I think the other one that's scary is Divine literally scary, but also like
Oh yeah.
it made me kind of like I played Divine Frequency, and I kind of had like a come to Jesus moment with myself. I'm like, you can't do that. Like that's total chaos. That is another great example. But like these games that are they're not even the same. They're not even the same fucking universe. Whereas I look at things like Hedon. Like I'm really good friends with Bridgeburner and Major Arlene, so like Unleash Hell and all the wonderful things that they're doing. Relentless Frontier.
Age of Hell.
Did I say something wrong?
You said Unleash.
Unleash Hell. My bad.
Yeah,
I always do
Age
that.
of Hell, yeah.
Yeah, Age of Hell. Yeah. Sorry, Bridge.
There's too many Hell games, Bridge.
Well, at one point in time, Unleash Hell and Age of Hell were under the same brand too. So
and Hell Slinger as well.
All
under
Hellforge Studios. And, like imagine the SEO on this, but I have exhausted myself trying to explain that to people. Like, if you put hell on your title, you're gambling for your success at that point. But yeah, I would like to be considered one of the better ones. But the other big comparison line is that most of the titles that I just named, and also Project Absentia is another really cool one.
Oh yeah.
These are adult games. These are made for grown-ups only. And I am making a game that should be in the, I don't know what the PEGI rating would be, but like E for everyone, E10 plus kind of thing. Cartoon violence is the worst thing you're going to get in this game. And I want to make a game that I can play with my kid, and that my kid can go and say, my dad made this, and all the other kids are like, this is dope. We want to play this. And I literally play tested on like my nephews and other stuff. Like we even had like our business partner like had his mom play it just to see. And so I'm designing it around that principle. And I don't know if that necessarily translates to more copies sold, especially on Steam, but that is the ambition. So I don't know what to compare it to, because there's like really nothing like that in terms of the GZ Doom engine games that have come out.
Yeah. I think the big issue with a lot of GZ Doom titles, I'm not going to name any because I don't want to throw any under the bus, but there's a big issue with them where they feel too much like Doom, whether that's in kind of setting choice or just feeling of how the character moves and stuff.
Are you saying that Age of Hell reminds you of Doom? Really?
Can you not put me on the spot? No. I think Age of Hell is like
It's amazing.
the
But it's
next
hard.
step. It's like the next step in slaughter maps for like that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And the art is fucking incredible as well in Age of Hell. Like it's awesome. But there's a lot of games which sort of don't go anywhere, which feel they feel too close to Doom to make any sort of impact. And although these games might be good and might be fun, they might have their fans, I think just being different enough from that is not enough to succeed on its own, but it's going to give you a leg up. Like if you look at something like Project Absentia, which has got all the super cool gliding and stuff like that, and all the characters look like super. When you look at Project Absentia screenshot,
My Little
you
Pony.
immediately know it's Project Absentia.
Right.
And I think that's the same with something like Sulaco. You know that Sulaco just looking at a screenshot. But there's some titles you look at a screenshot and you think, oh, is this Doom?
Right.
So Star Valkyrie, I think, has that edge as well.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that people who do not or have not ever played Doom will play the game and like it.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want. And whether that's the smart business decision, I mean, it could be debated forever, because ultimately to run an indie studio, if you can get a 250th of something like Doom 16 or Doom Eternal or whatever, that's enough money to live off for a long, long time. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I really just kind of want to make something that transcends that. I don't want to be another Doom thing that's only marketed towards Doom people who already own all the other Doom games. Like that, to me, I mean, especially working at 3DR, that market is fucking tapped, bro. Like there's about 10,000 people, and that's about it. And you're not, you have to grow new people somehow to sustain that. And there's a cap. What's that?
Aren't you growing a new person?
Yeah, and I'm growing up, and that person probably will be exposed to, and like, don't get me wrong, but
It will be a
to-
Stella Valkyrie fan.
to be honest, to be frank, not a lot of these people are having kids, so
Yeah.
like that's a little bit of a concern too. Like, is this really, is that same nostalgia from 25 years ago when we were all, little kids playing Doom to 50 years, later, is it still going to be as relevant? And I mean, probably because id Software is doing a great job of continuing the continuing the IP.
A large part of it's the 30-year cycle. I think I've caught you talking about it a couple of times,
Mhm.
where things come back into circulation. But have we had anything that's come back on a 60-year cycle? Will the
in
80s
video
be
games?
cool in
In video games?
in anything? Well, like,
Like,
at what
when
point did the so looking at that, currently the 60s should be cool if we're going by the 60-year cycle.
right, and the 60s are cool, but not because grandma has nostalgia for the 60s that she passes along to her grandkids. It's like because of the historical influence of people now on the 60s. Like, people love the Beatles. That's never going away. There's always going to be kids with, colorful tie-dye clothes on and peace sign necklaces. Like, I was one of those kids, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't because, it wasn't nostalgia for my time in the 60s. It was me listening to the Doors and
But
Snoop
you were
Dogg.
growing up during the 30-year cycle.
Okay. I mean, if we're going from 2010 back 30 years, that would land me solidly in the time when Motley Crue and Dokken were at the top of the charts, and Madonna,
I fucking
Metallica. But I was into those things because my parents were into those things. Like,
Yeah.
I loved Dokken. It's amazing. I've seen them live and they're awesome.
Oh,
Totally,
nice.
totally great. Yeah. Go see Dokken, kids. Do that. If you want a little taste of history.
I find trouble finding other Dokken fans. I'm so happy we hopped on this podcast.
Oh my god, dude! We were just talking about like Maiden and we're tangent everybody. Tell my Chat GPT AI generated timestamps to mark this down. Yeah, we were talking about like Priest and Maiden and stuff like that. But yeah, Dokken gets slept on, man. They were fucking solid.
I think
Nightmare on
there's
Elm Street
something
soundtrack. Oh,
there's something about hair metal where it's just completely frowned upon by anyone in the metal community. But I love the cheese. Like, I am here for it every single day of the week. Not necessarily. I'm not talking Poison here.
I loved
like-
Poison when I was a little kid. But when I was a little kid, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, now you I'm sure that you think better. But like finding stuff like Dokken or like Winger. I think Winger are great.
I love watching those old documentaries where the feud was between Metallica and Winger, and then like Beavis and Butthead was like spoofing on that shit and stuff. Like, but Winger is like the music for the nerdy kid, and then like Metallica is like what basically losers listen to. The cool guy who's not going to get a job or do anything with his life.
There is not a single member of Metallica that I would go gay for. But Kip Winger, holy fucking shit.
Good looking. He's very pretty, man. Speaking of Poison, when I was like, I don't know, I was probably like middle school or high school, my mom had bought me like this encyclopedia of heavy metal book where it had like, pictures of basically everything from Zeppelin, Sabbath up to, I don't know, probably like early mid 2000s, Lamb of God, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And in there was this big, spread of Poison. And I was like, I had the book open like on the school bus and I'm reading through it. And then this guy walks up behind me. He's like, damn, those chicks are fine. I would totally bone all of them. I was like, those are all dudes. Nothing wrong with that. Just saying,
Yeah, is that the look what the cat dragged in cover?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. Yeah. You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. Whatever happened to the good old days, when computer role-playing games spent more time telling great stories than stressing you out with season passes and needless grinding? Call of Ragnar is our effort to bring back the best in RPGs. Play in the immersive world as two friends adventure into a murder mystery that lands them in the middle of a battle between gods. Head over to callofsaregnar.com. That's callofsaregnar.com for more info. And be sure to wishlist on Steam. But Poison was like the fucking Justin Bieber of their day. Like that's what's funny about it. Like we think of it as like, rock and roll, but like rock and roll was just pop music for a long, long time. Basically until Madonna.
I mean, we're talking about when Ted Nugent was considered a cool guy.
I like Ted Nugent. I think Stranglehold rules. I like when he does like wacky shit. I'm not saying that we're gonna necessarily agree on everything, but like I have a real recurring dream for a long time that me, Hank Williams Jr., Kid Rock, and Ted Nugent are fishing on a boat together, drinking beer. And it's not necessarily that I think that I have a lot in common with these guys, but I grew up with all people like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm Hank Williams Jr. lives in like Jackson, Alabama. Like I think we have a lot to talk about. We could find some common ground. And Kid Rock just seems like a cool guy.
You guys don't get a lot of famous exports out of Alabama. We got Skinner.
Jimmy Buffett.
Okay, so you got Yacht Rock and you got what was it they called?
Stock car racing.
Swamp Rock.
Leonard Skinner is Southern rock would be the word,
Yeah.
but I mean they're actually from Florida. They're not from Alabama.
Okay.
So the Sweet Home Alabama was a rap battle between Skinner and Neil Young. They were having like a 1970s version of a rap battle between them.
So wait, Neil Young's from Alabama then?
No, he's from Canada, but he put out.
Alabama get caught in the crossfire.
Okay, history time, music history lesson of the day. Neil Young put out 2 songs. One was called Southern Man, and the other song was, I believe, actually called Alabama, where he was talking about political shit, like basically putting down the South for all the Jim Crow and all that shit that had gone on.
Yeah.
And all valid complaints, don't get me wrong. But it came across like he was kind of saying like all Southern people are dumb, ignorant, people who support this shit. And then Skinner were a bunch of hippies that were like, we don't have those same political beliefs. And like in the song Sweet Home Alabama, literally like the second verse is, I heard Mr. Young sing about her. I heard old Neil put her down, but I hope he'll remember that a Southern man doesn't need him around anyhow. And they talk about like in Birmingham, they loved the governor. And then it says, boo, boo, boo. We all did what we could do. And they're talking about how like there's a bunch of people in the South who are like, we don't agree with this politics. We just don't have control over it, basically. And fuck you for fucking putting us all down. And then that was the feud between Skinner and Neil Young. Yeah, kind of like Kendrick Lamar and Drake now.
And then
Except much higher stakes. Like,
and then Kid Rock thought it was so cool he pretended to be from the South.
well, he was from Michigan. He was from like not the South, but the country. He wasn't from like proper Detroit.
Kind of the highest of the South is sort of like North Carolina, isn't it?
It's the Mason-Dixon line. I mean, Kentucky is further north. Maryland to a degree. Basically, I mean, the dividing line is the Confederacy and the Union.
But you wouldn't call like Eminem like a Southern man.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not saying he's Southern. I'm saying he's
Michigan.
You don't have to be from the South to be country. You could be from fucking Australia, like Keith Urban, and be from most of the country is not city. There's 2 cities. I mean, you could be Canadian, like Coulter Wall, huge country star. He's from Calgary, I think. Which is
He is insane. Not as in like how he acts, but like what happened to his voice box? It sounds like somebody deep fried it.
He sounds like he came out of a time machine, dude. Like when I listen to like his second record where he's like doing the kind of like 1860s, 1870s Saskatchewan. I think that's the name of one of the names of his songs even. But I almost believe like, oh, this is like an old folk song from then. But it's like, no, that dude's like
sung
younger
by
than
a
us.
90-year-old man.
Yeah. Amazing. Fuck. How did we get off on this tangent? We were talking about metal, and then we got all the way to. We were talking about the 60-year versus 30-year nostalgia cycle, right?
In relation to Doom.
So the question is, if you were having nostalgia about your teenage years, and when you're, 60 years later, you're Donald Trump's age, right? So how many people that age are having an influence on the zeitgeist of art is the question.
Yeah. In 2070,
Mm.
are they going to be talking about Pitbull?
No, they're not. They're not even talking about him in 2025. That's gonna be interesting though. Like, when I'm an old man, am I gonna be talking to my kids about, like, back in my day, we used to listen to wholesome music where people talked about pimps and slapping hoes and dealing drugs and stuff, and now you kids these days are talking about your laser sticks and your flying cars or what? I don't know. Like,
So in your eyes, the future is Star Wars.
I mean, you think, all you kids nowadays with your techno boosted flying cars and, lowriders were the thing when I was a kid. It was, you wanted your car to scrape the ground when you drove over a curve. Like,
Cars ran on gas.
yeah. Yeah, we used to dig fossil fuels out of the ocean for cars. Now you have what, your flux capacitor? Flux you. I don't know. But then again, people will probably live to be older. Like, when I'm in my 70s, I'm probably going to look a lot better than my grandpa looked in his 70s, and maybe I will still be making shit that is relevant, and maybe there will be more influence. But I just I don't know. I don't know. That's an interesting philosophical question that only time will tell.
Well, let's reconvene in another 30 years and let's see what happens.
Yes.
I'll be your guest in the keep this time in 20.
Ooh, it's a math problem.
Why do you think I picked an engine that doesn't require coding?
2055.
Yeah, in
Yes.
2055, I will be your guest on In the Keep.
Should make a game, like Cyberpunk 2055 or whatever. I think.
I mean that is something we've not touched on yet.
Cyberpunk
thing. Yeah.
I think that I like Cyberpunk once it has passed its date that it was talking about. Like, we live in a world now where, like, 2001: A Space Odyssey is not the future, and it's also not the future they predicted. And it's same thing with Back to the Future, all that stuff. It's so crazy.
Oh yeah.
But you don't read. How do you know anything about science fiction? You don't read books.
I was really into Star Wars for a while.
That's not really science fiction.
It's science fact. It's all real.
Star Wars is fantasy set in space.
Well, maybe that's why I like it.
Yeah.
I like Trancers. Have you seen Trancers?
No. What's that?
Dude, watch Trancers. It's like this guy is in the future, which is probably like 2025.
Future cop.
He's sent back to the 80s. And there's like all these people in the 80s who are trying to like kill him, and they're all like weird ghoul people. And there's a scene where he gets locked in a tanning bed, and he has to try and get out and kill the ghoul. It's awesome, dude. The guy who's in it, I think his name is Tim Thomason.
Okay. I found the IMDb
you can
page.
ever have.
88% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's a sick film.
Okay. A gruff bounty hunter travels back in time to 1980s Los Angeles to stop a twisted criminal who can transform people into zombie-like creatures. This spring, rated PG-13.
Is his name Tim Thomason?
Yeah, Tim Thomerson. Yes, and Helen Hunt, a young Helen Hunt. Wonderful.
Add this to your watch list. Watch it with your newborn baby.
Yeah. It is rated PG-13. It's perfect.
Excellent.
So I'll get with you in 13 and a half years. Let you know what I think of that, or I'll let you know what my kid thinks of it. But do you think you'll make is it one of the things on your list is like a Cyberpunk? FPS
It's
game.
it's not on the wheel at the moment, but we repeatedly add and remove from the wheel.
Yeah.
Like, to give you a little taste of what's on the wheel at the moment, we've got like Blade inspired, so like urban 90s vampire setting. We've got Renegade inspired. Do you ever watch Renegade
Uh,
with Lorenzo Lamas?
let me just pull up a picture and see if it hits me.
'Cause
I
like
feel like the answer is yes, but it's not like ringing bells. TV
it's like
series?
it's like a cooler Walker Texas Ranger.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen this.
Yes, it's sick, but like that's on there, like a Renegade inspired game. And
Wow.
what happens a lot is I will encounter some form of media, but never the written word. And I'll be like, oh yeah, let's build something based off this. Like let's take this and sort of run with it. So when we were building Skarab, I was thinking a lot and listening to like loads of podcasts about Egyptian mythology and stuff like that. I don't think I actually applied any of that knowledge to the game, but I was
Getting in the
enveloped
headspace.
in Egypt for a little while, listening to a lot of Nile.
Mhm.
And then we got the one of the vocalists from Nile is actually in the game as well.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a nice little tidbit there.
So we it's cool. Like it's just his likeness. Like he agreed to have his likeness in there and kind of helped us come up with the idea for the character.
Mhm.
But he's voiced by someone else.
I think that's,
Um,
like, really cool though, to just, like, have cross-pollination between different art mediums and stuff, like, "Hey, you wanna be in a game?" Like, and most musicians are like, "Fuck yeah, I wanna be in a game, I always wished I was in a game," like, you know?
See, I've had so much trouble with it, like so much trouble with it, because one of my big ideas, and I'll say it because it's probably never going to happen at this rate, but
Mm,
we want to make something that's like 50 Cent Bulletproof, where we have like a rapper as the main star, and we build the game around them.
yeah.
But the trouble is trying to find
Travis Scott.
someone.
You
Uh,
need Travis Scott.
Travis Scott.
I don't think he's good or anything, but he'll probably agree to it, is what I'm saying.
So like the idea that we've got is we want to find someone who was kind of relevant during the time that like 50 Cent Bulletproof was coming out, or maybe earlier, like a 90s rapper or something.
E40 Pimp Simulator.
I guarantee he's not interested. Like we've tried people with much less clout than E40, and they're not here to be like, oh yeah, I'll definitely do that. Like what we want to do is do something like a proper homage to sort of 90s hip hop. So soundtrack wise, we're thinking like G-funk and like stuff that's got like funky drummer samples in it.
Yeah. Warren
And
G,
then like,
Nate Dogg.
well, I mean, Nate Dogg's dead, so he's not a
But
great.
that era of like if you really like the
Yeah,
G-funk shit, like that's what you're going for, yeah.
yeah. But like we've reached out to
Too
people
short.
who have no clout, and they still said no.
Mm.
I'll fucking air this guy on air because he didn't come back to me. But
Yeah.
do you remember when John Cena put a rap album out?
Yeah, of course. Of course I do. Yeah.
Was it
Uh-huh.
just John Cena
No,
that was labeled on that?
no, Gary
No.
Coleman.
No, not Gary Coleman. It was John Cena and the trademark.
Mhm.
The trademark being John Cena's cousin, Mark
Yes.
something.
Yes.
Mark Cena. The trademark didn't come back to me. Who's talking about the trademark in 2025?
You and me.
We can drag the trademark on in the Keep podcast, and no one will ever even know who the trademark is.
Well, I mean, then it probably wasn't gonna sell very many copies every game anyway. Like, he's like, "It's John Cena's cousin." Like, okay.
Well,
Now, if you could get John Cena to do it,
what if we'd
he
got a retweet from John Cena?
he's been in a lot of video games, that guy. He's been in a lot of video games.
So is Vin Diesel, but I don't see him lining up to be in the next DOSMan title.
That's probably true. Probably can't afford him. The hard part about a lot of those folks is that it's hard to get in touch with them directly, and it's stuff that they would probably want to do, but like their agent is just going to be like, doesn't work for our brand or whatever.
I mean, a big thing I tried to do was come up with guys who were underground enough to be like have the rights to their music themselves, so that maybe they could even say like, oh yeah, we'll put some tracks that we made into the game and stuff.
It's like Cypress
But
Hill did with Kingpin.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just for one reason or another has never come to fruition yet. So
You got to find like an actual young up and coming rapper who is interested, and then build the game around, like build them as if they're a legend, even though they're not technically a legend yet. And then it will like manifest. You'll be able to like make it happen through the secret or something. Like they'll get bigger for being in the game. Your game will sell because as they get bigger, everybody wins.
it's not a bad idea.
I don't know, like get YNW Melly or one of those fucking like shitty mumble rappers to be in there.
We would do it around someone who doesn't mumble.
Mhm.
We'd probably do it around someone who is sort of trying to tap into that older scene with the music that they make. Like I haven't tried this one yet, but like Big Pun's son is rapping now, Chris Rivers.
Mhm.
There's a guy who's called Young Woofy Woof who's doing a lot of G-Funk stuff.
Yeah, the 30-year cycle I think is actually happening in hip hop music currently. Like it's really interesting because my wife listens to a lot of the more modern stuff that I can't fucking stand. Like
Yeah.
I really can't get into. I don't know. I like Kendrick Lamar a lot, but I mean that's about as deep as I go. And he's not a mumble rapper, but there's so many songs that are sampling a song from the 90s or the early 2000s. And then so when I hear it, I'm like, oh, sick, man. I fucking love Warren G. And then it's not that. And it's them sampling that. And then I think, like, well, actually, that was a sample of this song from the 60s.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Regulators is Michael McDonald.
I think so. So.
Yeah.
I'd have to look that up to be 100% sure. But yeah, there's so many examples of that. Like, I don't think there's ever been a song more sampled in hip hop than Atomic Dog by Parliament. Or George Clinton anyway. Like Atomic Dog is in like like Bow Wow Wow Yippee Yo Yippee Yay was done way before fucking Snoop Dogg. Like that was George Clinton, and so many, like especially Dre. If Dre is on the track, he's probably whipping that song out at some point.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, like not 90% of like 80s, early 90s stuff was sampling Funky Drama with James Brown.
yeah, they're pulling from the shit that they listened to when they were growing up too. Yeah, same thing we were talking about earlier. But I don't know. I'm trying to like rack my brain for like what gangster rapper could we get for your gangster rap game. I'm gonna be thinking about this for like I'm gonna be texting you like in the middle of the night thinking about this.
Ooh,
Yeah,
because like I've tried some deep cuts.
yeah,
I mean, the fact that I even reached out to the trademark, like we've been doing deep cuts here.
yeah. Scraping the bottom of the barrel, getting that port. Oh,
But like at the moment that's sort of pushed to the side, like until we can get someone come in that's that sort of fits that bill.
people listening, leave it in the comments. What rappers do you want to see in this game? This hypothetical game.
You're doing it wrong. Rappers listening.
Yeah.
Do you want to be in a game?
Aspiring young rappers who listen to In the Keep, all of you. Would you like to? Don't think about what it would do for your brand to be in a first person shooter video game. It'd be epic.
It's such a.
We'll even make the sprite so that you hold your gun sideways instead of up.
Oh yeah, it's got to be a chrome Desert Eagle as well.
Yeah. You watch Dirty Harry and buy a shitty gun.
Yeah. Going by the 30-year cycle, in 10 years, I'll have been ahead of the curve. When people are making bulletproof clones, when people are like, oh, you know what was sick? Def Jam, Fight for New York.
Yeah.
Oh, I really hope that happens in 10 years' time.
Somebody needs to bring back Celebrity Deathmatch. That was such a fucking fun time. I love that shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just we need more Steve Austin in our lives, I think.
He still makes. You talk about reality TV show. That motherfucker's at work, bro. Like Broken Skull Ranch and Redneck Island and all that stuff. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin does not sleep.
But he went through such a great phase between like 07 and like 2013, where he was in a bunch of action movies, and I think that was like the perfect.
The Condemned.
Yeah, The Condemned.
Longest Yard.
Force with Michael J. White.
Yeah.
I think I've got just about every film that he was sort of top billing on. Like he's the same character and everything, but it's awesome. Maybe if we can get him to front a hip hop game.
Broken Skull Ranch, the game. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, if we could get in touch with his people, it might happen. Maybe you could get like Scotty Too Hottie.
Maybe if I'm maybe
Yeah,
if I'm lucky.
I think he's a firefighter now. He might be open to it. Or like the green meanie or the blue meanie. My bad.
The blue
yeah,
meanie,
yeah. Yeah. Or
I
I
mean,
think it'd be really cool as a Terry Funk game. You just
that would be insane.
but like he's a cowboy. Like he's his character for real. Just bloodbath. And there's no weapons. It's just your bare hands or like things you pick up along the way. Barbed wire covered baseball bats and shit on fire.
I mean, I went to or two seconds.
No worries.
I went to what you'd call a yard sale
Mhm.
last weekend, and I picked this up while I was there. You're gonna love this. It's a tiny little Farouk action figure.
Wow,
It's from the Nation
Wow.
of Domination.
that's amazing.
What if
They
we
were
can get Farouk in a game?
That'd be cool.
He'd only have to say one line as well.
You know, he just got called out on TV recently, so he might be up for getting a little clout back. It was like a couple weeks ago. I think the New Day, like Kofi Kingston's crew, where JBL was like the featured commentator on the show, and they were talking to him about they've dropped Big E from the New Day. They're like, yeah, we had to trim the fat. And they were talking to JBL, and they're like, you know what it's like to be a part of a tag team, and hit to trim the dead weight or whatever. And they're talking about the acolytes, with Farouk and all that. And I'm like, damn, bro. I mean, literally, damn. Sorry. Russell Simmons, right? Am I getting my names wrong?
You are that Ron Simmons.
Why do I think Russell Simmons? I'm a bad person. I'm sorry. Now Farouk's definitely not doing your game. Yeah.
I think you will get on that boat with Kid Rock.
Hey, what if Kid Rock was in he was a gangster rapper at one point in time? Dude, come on, balls in your mouth. Everybody knows balls in your mouth.
Podunk.
Oh, Insane Clown Posse might do it.
Yes. But yeah, it's one idea of many.
Sure.
And I am interested to see what we pull together after our current lineup. We got 3 games in various stages of production at the moment. 4 games in various stages of production at the moment. Just the internal stuff that we're doing.
That's cool, man.
And then we've got a bunch of published stuff that's coming as well. So we've got a lot that we're doing, a lot on our plate.
What was the one that I messaged you about recently? I'm like, I think it was on Twitter. I was like, is this
we haven't
DOSMan
announced
game?
that one yet.
Oh, well, it's on Twitter.
I mean, he said yes, but we haven't done the proper rollout of here's a proper trailer, here's all the stuff.
Well, you got to give us at least one exclusive. Come on.
I mean, we announced Skarab today, so effectively it was announced in the key.
So this is the first time anyone's heard of Skarab. Is the Steam page going to be out by next Tuesday? Not this coming Tuesday, but the one after that?
The Steam page was out 8:45 a.m. on the Friday that we recorded it. In preparation for my appearance on In the Keep. Obviously.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Let me make sure that's true.
No, it is. It's with a K because we didn't want to get sued by EA.
Yeah, it is there. Well, everybody go type in SKARAB and wishlist Skarab. And I have played it, and I will tell you that it is good. If you like to shoot things in Egypt, you will be satisfied.
And
it has
better since he played it because now we've implemented his feedback.
That's good. Yeah. I actually like doing that. Like just straight, just general feedback on games and stuff. Like I've even got a whole setup where I've got my phone where I can just hit the record button and it goes voice to text to my computer screen. So I don't have to tab out and type all the time. That's lame. And I hate opening up OBS and recording myself.
I'll send you links to all of our work in progress posts from now on. You can be free QA.
I'll find a way to make money off of it. when I bring you a hot young rapper that wants to do your game, I'll get that money back somehow. I'll be like the guy in Rocky 5, like a terrible agent.
Oh God, or a terrible movie.
I just watched it again last night, and it is a fucking horrendous movie. I hated that shit. But
I mean, I love Stallone. I love Stallone films which aren't necessarily his best films. Like Over the Top is amazing. Yeah,
I gotcha.
I cry when I watch Over the Top because it makes me think of my relationship with my dad, which sucks. But then it's got a sick ass arm wrestling competition at the end, and the tears are gone, and it becomes just pure joy.
What is it in the 80s about, like, or in 90s, but like the tournament movie, like Bloodsport, everything was a tournament.
Bloodsport,
Everything.
Blood Fist,
Yeah.
Blood Fist 2, Blood Fist 3.
What's
Blood
the
Fist 4.
what's the arcade game one? The is it
Oh,
called Wizard?
That's not the one I'm thinking of. The one with Billy Blanks.
Probably. I don't know.
Expect No Mercy.
No, that's not the one. But I
They
think I'm thinking
made
of
a
the
PC
Wizard.
game of it as well.
I believe you. I'm just thinking of
What's
like
what the hell is the Wizard?
it's a movie. I could be completely wrong about this, like, but the Wizard movie.
The Oz?
Yeah, okay. So a boy and his brother run away from home to hitchhike across the country with help from a girl they meet to compete in the ultimate video game competition, 1989.
Okay. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, but there were so many fucking movies like that where it's like, why was there this obsession with tournament movies?
I've got an Australian fighting tournament film called Day of the Panther.
That sounds dope.
Which is like just the right level of cringy cheese.
Did you ever watch Man of Tai Chi with Keanu Reeves as the bad guy?
No.
I recommend that one. It's much later on. It's like mid 2000s or something like that, but it's good. That's a good one. It's gritty though. It's not like funny. It's like
goddamn.
Coming
in, being gritty.
Okay, fine. We'll just stick to the funny then.
What's next? Recommending books.
I love recommending books. I think books make you smarter. It turns out that like acquiring information makes your brain work more, and the actual process of reading the information means you retain it more. There's a reason why people have been doing this since, like the printing press, and even before that.
Yeah, it's because they didn't have TV.
Yeah, I think there's probably a reason why, like, like in the various religions. I mean, like in the book of John, there's like in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was good. And like, I don't take that literally if you want to, but like if you want to get real literal about it, what they're saying is that writing things down is important. Like remembering things is important. Like, or Odin, even in the Eddas, is talking about like the runes are sacred and you don't forget them because your ability.
He's the guy from the 4 movies, right?
Yes, that Odin, guy with the eye patch, same guy, for real. But the idea that writing things down is the only way, or at least at the time, that you can pass information across generations, other than just directly storytelling and memorizing poems or whatever the fuck they were doing at the time. So, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to know what. It's nice to know what people in the 1930s were thinking, especially when you find parallels to now and such, like the 100-year cycle. I think this has been a really good podcast, man. I think you did good.
Yep. I don't know how much we stayed on topic, but I've had fun.
We talked about games. We talked about gangster rap. We talked about wrestling. We talked about sci-fi movies, reality. I think we covered all the bases.
Yeah, no one can come on this podcast comment section and say, they didn't talk about what I wanted them to talk about.
If they manage to come up with something, that'd be great. Leave it in the comments. And make sure you like, subscribe, review, and all that stuff on whatever listening platform of your choice, especially Spotify. I'm having a lot of trouble with people figuring out how to leave 5-star reviews on Spotify. So if you could do that for me, that'd be great. Thank you.
I mean, I will have a look because I didn't realize how to do that. But
it's not anyone's fault. It's actually like not very intuitive. So I'm trying to trying to bridge the gap.
And don't forget to click through our Steam affiliate links to get your game recommendations.
Definitely,
Those
like,
exist.
go, like, if you have $20 right now and you're listening to this, buy the entire DOSMan Games library in one go, and you'll be very occupied for at least a week or two, and then wait patiently for a Skarab to come out and buy that as well for only $3, or however many pounds sterling that is.
$2.50.
$2.50. I mean, think
It's-
about it,
it also-
Americans. That's a steal.
It also shouldn't be that long. I reckon we're looking at Q2 for Skarab. So
You
soon.
can do that.
Yeah.
You can do that. And thanks for the Desecrators, guys. That was a fun podcast too.
Oh, and any time. I know a lot of people, and they have games usually.
Yeah, you should start your own podcast. It'd be cool. The DOSMan podcast.
The father load.
You could be I'm gonna be the father load pretty soon, but you could also be the father load.
Yeah, I think
Well
I do think you should change your name upon birth.
I don't know why. Like, for the longest time, even on Discord, I was just Tyler Brannon because I was trying to be professional or whatever. And then I was like, nah, fuck that. I'm the mother load, bitch.
You can help me come up with one for mine.
Yeah, yours is boring.
The trademark.
You could be the trademark. I bet he has a Discord account and he probably plays shitty games.
I bet he hasn't trademarked it.
I bet he's actually a really interesting, very cool guy, and I'd love to have the trademark on the podcast and talk about why it would be good for your brand to be in a first-person shooter video game. I think that...
Mark, if you're listening.
Yes. Damn, he used his government name. Shit.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, dude. Let's do it again. Anytime you want. Thank you very much to Sam for coming on. Make sure you go wishlist Skarab with a K right now. It's pretty freaking dope. If you like shooting stuff in ancient Egypt and all that, it is actually really good. And everything that they make over at DOSMan Games is pretty damn solid. For only $3 a pop, or £2.50 sterling, you could be the owner of any one of those games, or a bunch of them if you have multiples of that amount of money. Or catch them on sale, or buy the whole bundle, or whatever. Just get them all. It's great. And also, while we're at it, check out Desecrators that Sam published over at Perp Games. It's also really, really cool. And check out my most recent interview with those gentlemen, those fine young Danish gents who, are making really cool space stuff. There's so many great games coming out right now. It feels like this month and, just springtime of 2025 is the birth of a lot of games that have been in development for quite a long time, been looked forward to for quite a long time. So go spend some cash. I know you have it. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. If you yourself would like to become one, you can. Just go to inthekeep.com/support or find us on Patreon or support us in some other way. I think we have a coffee link on our support page. You can use our Amazon affiliate link. You could buy me a book on Amazon. That'd be greatly appreciated. There will be a link to that in the article. You could just tell your friends. That's the most important thing. Tell somebody how much you love this show, and then tell them to listen to it. And then tell them if they don't, you'll beat them up. I love you. God love you. Stay in the keep.
Hi, I'm Ben, host of the Field and Foley podcast. Every episode I sit down with incredible guests, not just sound designers, field recorders or musicians, but experts in everything about audio. We explore the creative process behind the sounds that shape our favorite games, films and experiences. Whether you're an audio professional or just someone who loves great sound, Field and Foley offers deep dives, behind the scenes stories and insights you won't hear anywhere else.